So there is something I guess we need to talk about, which we kind of touched on it already. But what did you think of Matt Corral's overall performance? Not just his game-winning drive, where he willed the team down the field with an incredible ability to fight and claw, and the leadership was there. Obviously, he's already he's very much Tom Brady esque already. The way he can will the flags out of the referee's pockets whenever he needs them. That is a veteran savvy move that not a lot of guys have. And he's already got it here in his first preseason game as a young rookie. Other than that incredible ability that he has, how would you assess this first outing from Matt Corral?
Well, first off, not many third round picks. All right, I got to get serious for a second. I love the jokes. They're funny. On a real note here, I gotta say, I have thought about it for a couple of days. It's crazy how much I've thought about a preseason game for a third round draft pick in my mind, as opposed to all the other things that are going on in the world. I'm 50-50 on it. Half of me says that was really, really bad. And I understand that you haven't gotten a lot of reps, but that was really bad. And then the other half of me is like, okay, this guy's basically the fourth string quarterback. He's gotten nothing but mental reps throughout training camp. The only highlights we've really seen of him have been just in a kind of a 7-on-7 or a 1-on-1 where he's just throwing the ball between a cornerback and a receiver.
Yeah, I got to say, I don't even know if I've seen any 7-on-7s. It seems like every clip I've seen of him is him throwing either 1-on-1 or against nobody.
Yeah, it's been minimal, if anything. So I'm really split down the middle. I'm not, obviously no one's going to sit here and make a rash decision. Yeah, like Matt Corral sucks. I mean, we've got a long ways to go. Clearly he's not ready yet, and that's fine. We thought maybe he could be, but if he's not, then he's not. I mean, that's why we have Baker Mayfield and we made that trade. But it was it was tough. I mean, there were, he was routed at first, and I kind of expect him to maybe dial it in a bit, and it just didn't happen. And there was a lot of miscues, a lot of missed throws, and just overall just a bad performance. But hopefully he can put that behind him and just say, hey, that was my first one. Let's get back to the next one. And hopefully this week or maybe the following week, whenever we play the Bills, he gets his face back and can show that, he can be, he can make some plays. Give us something to hold on to until we go into next offseason before we see if he's truly ready. So I'm very split between, hey, he didn't get the reps versus, there are other fourth round picks or, fourth string quarterbacks, third round picks that looked a lot better or worse. Sam Howell was a fifth round pick. I'm a big Sam Howell guy. He looked pretty damn good to me. But I understand that he has probably gotten a significant more amount of reps with that quarterback class than he has with this one, having 3 quarterbacks versus 4.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hide from the fact that it was ugly because it was, but I think you can't dwell on it too much either, because I think if you look at who was on the field with him at the time,
Sure.
He's out there. He's the only guy who's going to be on the roster who's out there with that group of guys he was out there with for the most part. If any, maybe a couple other guys are going to make the team, but he's pretty much the only guy out there who's got a real shot at this roster. Everybody else is just there, as camp bodies pretty much. And obviously you could tell with the timing of some of the missed throws that the reps were not there and he had no chemistry with those guys. And then on top of that, what I just scrolled down, it says he was 1 for 9, I think. He was
Correct.
1 for 9, but I think there were at least 3 drops in there. Now, they weren't perfect throws by any means, but they were drops. So if they pulled, those balls in, he's 4 for 9, 35, 40 yards, whatever. It's not as bad, as ugly as it was. It wasn't great, but I can't shy away from the fact that he's out there with a bunch of nobodies. And I think, and I kind of touched on it earlier before, I really feel like Washington's squad they had out at the end of the game was a lot more talented than the guys we had out at the end of the game. And
They
we
were.
saw that, all over on offense and defense. It was 20-6, I believe. And then all of a sudden we get to the second half of the third quarter and Washington's offense and defense become unstoppable. So, I think they're just kind of more talented on the bottom part of their roster than we were. I think that was a big factor in it. Matt Corral did not, he just, he looks like a kid out there. He was brand new to it, and it was obvious that, it was all brand new to him, and that's fine. Like you said, if he's not ready, he's not ready. He'll grow in time, and we'll see. You look at it wasn't until recently that NFL quarterbacks were thrown out there to play. They used to sit and develop for 2, 3, 4 years before they went out and played. And Aaron Rodgers was that way, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. He sat and waited for a few years, so some guys, that's just what they need. So, I wouldn't put too much into this bad performance in his first preseason game, but no, it wasn't pretty, but yes, I think it'll get better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think it's also just kind of I like the point you made about quarterbacks used to being able to sit and kind of learn some. I would say probably the last 10 to 12 years is when you've really seen that, hey, you're a first round, second round pick. Like, we need you to start in terms of a quarterback. And, it's the hardest position to play in football. And some guys just aren't ready to start week one. I mean, we've seen many careers that we have presumed to be somewhat ruined by starting and playing too early. Sam Darnold, for example, maybe David Carr. There's been guys, Jamarcus Russell. I know he was the first pick, but there's guys that have been thrown out there and they just were not ready. There have also been guys that have been thrown out there and they have been ready. So it's tough. It's a mixed bag. The Panthers, as much as we like as fans to just kind of talk and, think of hypotheticals, Matt Corral was not drafted in the third round to be the starter week one. He wasn't. So, but that's okay. But I think he'll get better. He definitely will. I'm not gonna sit and harp on it. So he'll take this for what it is. He'll learn, and he'll get better from it.
Yeah, and I'll add this. I really have been trying to get away from dogging Matt Rule so much, but I just feel like it's like he gives me no choice. I feel like he gives me no choice but to hate him, man. Like, I really try not to, but. And I believe I said this to you during the game. Only Matt Rule's going to look at what he has in that quarterback room and say, yeah, well, obviously I'm going to give all the reps to Sam Darnold and PJ Walker, the quarterback who's going to lose the quarterback competition and the quarterback who you're probably going to cut. When you have the guy who needs reps because he's going to be the starter and he just got here, and the guy you drafted and want to be the future who needs all the reps he can get, especially if they're in the preseason and they don't count if he messes up.